Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A9 at Old Clyne near Brora, both directions are restricted for planned maintenance. Northbound on the A470 from Corryton to Nantgarve, traffic is slow with congestion. On the M6 northbound between Junction 10 and Junction 11 near Walsall, an incident involving multiple vehicles has 3 lanes closed and delays of around 20 minutes. On the M25 clockwise between Junction 29 and Junction 30 at Thurrock, 2 lanes are shut after a crash. And on the trains, Northern and TransPennine Express have major disruption into Manchester Victoria. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest cash prize winner to date, as there's a simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Go on that dream holiday, buy that brand new car, or just relax in the knowledge that the rest of the year could be on us. But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dewbs & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co.
I feel like I've come home.
News that has certainly got you all talking. The former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, has defected from Tories to Reform. There is a lot we need to discuss there. And speaking of political changes, a key one that got stopped absolutely in its tracks was Andy Burnham's ambition to try and stand in that forthcoming by-election. The Labour NEC were having absolutely none of it. Right decision or not? And huge reforms for policing. Get set, ladies and gents, for a British FBI. You tell me. Is this a step in the right direction or not? Keeping me company for all of that and more, my panel tonight, the Head of Policy for Reform UK, Zia Youssef. Alongside him, I've got the Labour MP, Samantha Nibbler. And don't worry, I'll bring the Conservatives into the conversation as well. But before we get stuck in, let's cross and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Good evening, it's 1 minute past 6. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. A major political defection. Former Conservative Home Secretary Suella Braverman has joined Reform UK, quitting the Conservatives after 3 decades.
Because I believe with my heart and soul that a better future is possible for us, I am joining Reform UK.
She made the announcement at a Reform event in London, saying she'll now sit as a Reform MP with immediate effect. Ms Braverman accused her former party of what she called Tory betrayal, arguing the Conservatives can no longer be trusted to keep their promises.
I've had enough of Conservative betrayal. I've had enough of Conservative denial. I've had enough of the political chameleons who populate the Conservative Party. Enough of Conservative delusion. They are a party now that is too weak to save themselves, let alone the country.
While the Tories say that Reform are doing their spring cleaning for them. Labour Party Chair Anna Turley says Nigel Farage is stuffing his party full of failed Tories. Elsewhere, the Home Secretary says policing is not broken, but that communities are facing an epidemic of everyday crime. That's as she announced the biggest overhaul to policing in England and Wales in generations. In the Commons today, Shoplifting Mahmood advocated for local policing, pledging 13,000 more neighbourhood officers by the end of this Parliament. Facial recognition technology and so-called police AI will also be rolled out across England and Wales, and the Home Secretary will regain power to sack failing police chiefs. Shoplifting Mahmood announced a new national police service to level standards across the country in a bid to tackle what ministers say is a system that's too fragmented. Sir Keir Starmer says Andy Burnham is doing a great job as Greater Manchester Mayor, but insists Labour was right to block him from running as an MP. Mr Burnham wanted to stand in the Gorton and Denton by-election, but Labour's ruling body stepped in, arguing it would have triggered a costly mayoral election. The Prime Minister says Labour can't afford to split its focus or its resources with elections it doesn't have to fight as it gears up for crucial contests in May. The Israeli military says it's retrieved the remains of Israeli police officer Ran Givili, the last hostage to be held in Gaza. The return of all living and deceased hostages in Gaza completes a key condition of the initial part of US President Donald Trump's plan to end the war in Gaza. The IDF added that identification of the remains has been confirmed by authorities. It's understood that 24-year-old Ran Givili was in the Israeli Police Special Forces and was killed on the day of the October 7th attacks in 2023. Donald Trump says his administration is reviewing everything after immigration agents shot dead a 37-year-old intensive care nurse in Minneapolis. A short while ago, in a post on Truth Social, the president said that he has spoken to the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, and that he is sending his border chief, Tom Homan, to Minneapolis. Speaking to the Wall Street Journal, the president said he doesn't like any shooting and suggested immigration agents could eventually be withdrawn from the city, but didn't give a key timeline. The killing has triggered protests across the country. And the Met Office has announced the next named storm as Chandra, which is forecast to bring strong winds, heavy rain and snow across much of the UK tonight and into tomorrow. Forecasters say flooding and travel disruption are likely, and there'll also be significant snow across higher ground in some northern parts of England and Scotland. Amber weather warnings have been issued for southwest England and the eastern coast of Northern Ireland for rain and wind, respectively. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Michelle.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you very much for that, and hello, good evening to each and every single one of you. How is it Monday? Again, already the day is absolutely flying by, ladies and gents, this year, as is the news. It was all about Andy Burnham, of course, this weekend. Well, events in Reform have somewhat leapfrogged that. There is a lot that we need to discuss tonight. Alongside me, the Head of Policy for Reform UKZ, Youssef, and Labour MP Samantha Niblett too. Welcome to both of you. You're very welcome tonight. Of course, as are each and every single one of you. I've been watching the Your Say, I've been reading the inbox, looking at the Twitter feed. Goodness gracious me, there's a lot that you guys want to get off your chest tonight. Join the conversation in all the usual ways. Email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. Go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. But look, without further ado, let's just get straight into the big news today. Were you watching the Reform UK press conference? It was originally intended to be talking about veterans, very important subjects, and I shall come on to that in just a second. But something that caught many people by surprise was this. Take a listen.
I believe that a better Britain is possible. And because I believe that is possible, today I'm announcing that I resign the Conservative whip and I will sit as the Member of Parliament for Fareham and Waterlooville, representing this great party, Reform UK, with immediate effect.
Well, there you go. I've got to tell you, of course, this is one of, if not the biggest, many people would argue, defection to Reform UK. Zia Youssef, what's your initial reaction to this?
Well, look, it's obviously a great day for reform. We welcome Suella Braverman, but it's also just further evidence of the terminal decline of the Conservative Party. I mean, I've been saying this pretty much from the time I entered politics about 18 months ago. Not only do we need Nigel Farage to be our next Prime Minister, there's only room for one centre-right party in this country, and I'm afraid the Tories spent 14 years betraying the country. They promised the country in 4 consecutive manifestos that they would cut net legal migration down to the tens of thousands. Then they shipped in 12 million gross and about 6.5 million net over their 14 years. They said they were going to cut people's taxes. They took the tax burden to the highest level since World War II. They said they would, clamp down and get rid of wokery, and they let wokery run rampant throughout all of the great institutions which we love. So even calling them centre-right, frankly, is not really doing it justice. I think they're actually a pretty leftist party now. And actually, one of the most interesting things now, with obviously Robert Jenrick joining us, who has been a standard bearer with a lot of energy, making the kind of right-wing case for the Conservative Party. Now, obviously, he's a part of Reform with Suella joining Reform. It's really interesting to see people like Andy Street and the other, the kind of other open borders wets, basically, in the Conservative Party, dominating Kemi Badenoch and dominating the Conservative Party. All this is doing, in my view, this is always going to happen because the British people are very smart. British voters are very smart. They're not going to get taken for mugs and be lied to repeatedly with no consequence. But this is accelerating it. And I think it draws sharply into focus what's going to happen at the May local elections, when I think the Tories are going to get wiped out.
Just hold your thoughts, because I know you've got many, Samantha, because I want to also bring in the Conservative Party here. Joining me live is Conservative MP Sir Bernard Jenkin. Good evening to you. Sir Bernard, what's your reaction to Suella's defection?
Well, I'm sad about it. I once supported Suella to be leader back in 2017. She was the only one at that stage who was prepared to say the truth about the European Convention on Human Rights. But now it's rather ironic that when Kemi Badenoch has set out very clearly and very carefully how the UK should leave the European Convention, she's chosen now to lead the Conservative Party. I mean, this idea that the Conservative Party is shifting to the left is just fantasy being promoted by Reform. Kemi herself says we are a party of the right, and it's the unhappiness of people on the old left of the party, most of whom are not in Parliament now, that they have set up this new group to which he refers. The real sadness about Suella leaving, I think she's made a misjudgment, but the last time there was a defection, Kemi overtook Nigel Farage in the poll ratings, and the Conservative Party started to go up in the opinion polls. So I think the idea that it's all over for the Tories is a little premature. I remember when the SDP was on 50% in the early 1980s, and at the end of that Parliament, they only finished up with a handful of seats. So this is no indication as to what's going to happen in the future.
A few things I want to run through with you. The official statement from the Conservative Party today, a statement was issued and it made reference to Suella's mental health. It said it was always a matter of when, not if, Suella would defect. The Tories did all we could to look after Suella's mental health, but she was clearly very unhappy. That was hastily retreated. Someone said that actually that was a draft statement that shouldn't have been issued. Seems very peculiar to me. Do you think it was appropriate that your party is referencing a particular individual's mental health in this way?
Absolutely not. And as soon as I heard about it, I asked what was going on, and I found that Kemi had immediately pulled it. She hadn't seen it. She hadn't approved it. These were not her words or the words of any member of Parliament. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of an inquest as to how that happened. I gather it got lost in translation. There was a reference to her attitude to welfare. Of course, she wants to put up welfare spending, not cut welfare spending, which is what the policy should be. She wants to abolish the two-child benefit cap, like Nigel Farage. They've got no plan to cut public spending, but obviously that statement was a mistake. and it's been pulled immediately. You're perfectly right to draw attention to it, but it was a mistake, and it certainly didn't reflect the values of the Conservative Party.
Suella said today, and I quote, the Conservative Party is now a social democrat, left-leaning party made up of Conservatives in name only. Chino, she called you. Really? She said the Conservative Party, the Tory Party, is not a Conservative Party. She said you're a toxic circus and a very unhealthy place. How do you respond to that?
Well, I do think it's fair to say she was very unhappy in the Conservative Party. She had become very isolated. I counted her as a friend a few years, some years ago, and she didn't talk to me. She didn't talk to anybody. I wish she'd talked to us. I wish she'd shared a bit more of this, but she was clearly very angry and upset. I mean, ironically, she was the Home Secretary when there was this huge wave of immigration. She was the Home Secretary when the Human Rights Act was stopping us deporting these illegal migrants. And she was a senior minister when all these taxes were going up. The important point here is that Kemi is not disowning those mistakes, but she's saying that we must learn from them and make sure we pull together a proper programme. The next Conservative government, or the next government, is going to have to pull down spending and taxes and borrowing and spend more on defence. Very easy to say, very difficult to do, but we started mapping out those policies at the conference. And when we did so, Nigel Farage scrapped all his manifesto promises and went back to the drawing board because he knew his policies were completely uncredible.
Let's explore that then, Sir Bernard, because you started this interview by telling me that the Conservative Party is still a Conservative Party. Yeah, but I would put to you, many of my viewers watching this are certainly previous, potentially future Conservative voters. They will be wondering, how can you call yourself a Conservative Party when you allowed taxes to get sky high, you allowed the state to rocket in terms of size, you let go of the borders, you lapsed in law and order, and you reduced our defence. How can that be Conservative?
Well, I don't think they were very Conservative policies, and that's why we're changing them. The interesting, what Kemi said at the conference was, we become unpopular, not when we stick to Conservative principles, but when we fail to stick to them. And she's made very clear she's bringing Conservative policies back to the fore, Conservative principles, and we will be doing those things. Sometimes a government gets tired, sometimes a party gets tired. We certainly did when we were in government. But looking to the future, we're going to be the credible, reassuring, but radical party that will get this country back on its feet again. Nigel Farage and Reform have shown no political coherence, have no political depth. They may well do very well at the local elections, but the local elections aren't what will decide the next general election.
Interesting stuff. I admire your optimism. For now, that is the Conservative MP, Sir Bernard Jenkins. Thank you very much. On the screens just now live, if you are listening on the radio, you can't see this. This is the wrapping up, essentially, of a press conference that's happening now between Nigel Farage and Suella Braverman. They're just answering the questions from the press. We shall be returning to that press conference where we will be speaking to Suella Braverman in just a few minutes. Worry not. But for now, Samantha, your response to this today?
Well, I have to say, it's quite astonishing to hear her in her speech say the Conservative Party is full of betrayal, denial and political chameleons. Yes, it is, and they're slowly all turning to reform. And it's quite astonishing that, we've seen Jenrick Rossendale, Braverman and Sahawi all shift from Conservative to Reform. I'm starting to forget what the Reform Party is actually called. But what I find really astonishing is she refers to political chameleons, but I've actually heard Zia talk about that Reform being a centre-right party. I mean, since when? I mean, there's one thing changing what the truth is, but gaslighting people and pretending for a second that they're centre-right when he then has a go at the wets in the Conservative Party, who are the centre-right of the party, is astonishing. And so I think it's a case of twist your neck too quickly and you might get whiplash when you watch the Reform Party's shenanigans week by week.
That is interesting that you do refer to Reform as centre-right. Is that how you see Reform?
Of course. What else would Reform be? And in amongst
many people watching this will want you to be right-wing.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, fundamentally what reform stands for is what the word centre-right should have meant and was supposed to have meant for all of my lifetime, really. We stand for secure borders. We stand for upholding the law. We stand for deporting people who are in this country illegally, full stop, period. And we want to uphold law and order, and we think that people should pay as little tax as possible, and to the degree they pay tax, the state should spend that wisely. And frankly, again, the Tories did the complete opposite of that. I want to make a comment, though, about the fact that the Tory put out a statement saying that Suella Braverman had joined Reform because of something to do with her, quote, mental health. And, you know, they've retracted that statement. Kemi Badenoch has claimed that she hadn't, well, you just heard there from her spokesperson that she hadn't even seen the statement. What kind of a circus is this where, one of their MPs defects to Reform and a statement is going out supposedly without the leader of the party even reading it? If that is true, that's even more insane. But I'd say, look, the fact of the matter is the Tory party, it's clear, do think that anybody who believes that we should have secure borders, that we should uphold immigration law, and in fact all of our laws, and not run insane deficits and raise everybody's taxes and allow wokery to run rampant through all of our great institutions, has some kind of mental health issue, and that's simply not true. And actually, the vast majority of the people watching this programme, I think, would agree with those things, and I encourage those people to do what Suella has done and make sure that you're supporting reform.
Let me bring some of you in at home, because loads of you are getting in touch, very strong opinions on this. Simon says, Michelle, this whole thing just shows me that the mainstream parties in this country are just not grasping the problems facing this country. Penny says, Michelle, Liz Truss, that's the one Reform need. She would provide very valuable insight and experience. Philip says the Conservative Party thinks Reform is doing its spring cleaning for them. I hate to break it to them, but the next election, he says, they won't be spring cleaning, they'll be jet washed out of the door. Let me take you live back to that press conference. Our political editor, Christopher Herp, is live there. Good evening, Christopher.
Good evening, Michelle. With me now is the latest Reform UK MP, Suella Braverman, the 8th one. Suella Braverman, thank you for joining us tonight on Dewbs & Co. on GB News. How are you feeling?
I feel relieved, I feel excited, I feel very honoured and lucky to be part of this mission in which I have so much faith.
It's a big jump for you, 3 decades as a Conservative MP. Any feedback from the Tory Chief Whip yet?
No, actually. Listen, I'm, to be honest, I don't really care so much about what the Conservative Party says about me, thinks about me, does to me. It's in a very sad situation. It's in free fall. Personally, a lot of the people there I wish them well, and I'm now with a party that is much more aligned with my values, leaving the ECHR credible on patriotism, strong borders, low taxation, and really standing up for British people.
I've got to say, that attack on your mental health was below the belt. Why did they say that?
You'd have to ask them. I mean, listen, I've come to be used to vicious attacks from Conservative colleagues. It's water off a duck's back for me. I think it says more about them than it does about me, to be honest.
And no plans for a by-election jumping ship?
No. I mean, there's been hundreds of defections now at local level, many at national level. And at the end of the day, I've actually been true and consistent in my beliefs. People know what they're getting. And in many ways, they're probably going to get a much more freer speaking local MP than they had as a Conservative.
Zia Yusuf was critical of you over the Afghan data leak last July. I mean, he's critical of a lot of Conservatives. Will you get on well with him?
Listen, Zia is a huge talent in Reform UK. He's a successful businessman and he's brought a huge amount of logistical and policy and strategic nous. And I'm really looking forward to working with him.
How many more Tories might come? Are you the last one before the drawbridge goes up?
I don't think I'm going to be the last one.
Who else is coming?
I don't know, but I know there are a lot of unhappy Conservative MPs really searching their souls right now. It's a big thing to do, and I think it's very difficult to grapple with this tension that many Conservative MPs are finding themselves with. Party versus country.
And that is not an easy reconciliation. The way I think it should be resolved is by coming to Reform UK, to all of those right-wingers, those people who have been sound on borders, on Brexit, on policing, on law and order, on wanting to tackle Islamism, who agree with me on a lot of the things that I've been talking about. And I know there are some. Please, reform.
Well, how many more are thinking about it right now?
It's very hard for me to say. I mean, there's a handful of people who share my views. But yeah, there's a lot of low morale and a lot of fear within the Conservative Party right now.
And what do you want from the Reform UK? What job has Nigel Farage promised you?
No job has been promised. I am not here really for jobs. I am here to be part of a mission, put my shoulder to the wheel and help in any way that I can.
The big theme here at this press conference is getting the right to unite. That's what Nigel Farage says. Do you think that can happen? Can you unite with the Tory party before the election?
Not with the Conservative Party as it is right now, but basically the right is now represented by Reform UK. That is the right of British politics. The Conservative Party is depleted and diminished, and it's also shifting to the left, as I said in my remarks. It's basically the right of the Conservative Party no longer exists in any meaningful sense, and it's now a centrist, Lib Dem light, social democrat party, really. It's good at performative conservatism, but scrape beneath the surface, and it's quite a left-leaning party.
And your message is finally to your local voters. They might be disappointed. They fought for you against that Labour landslide last July, in July 24. You won, but now you've left them in the lurch.
Well, I'm very heartened by the wave of positive messages I've got from local people just today. I've been inundated with people begging me to join Reform at the local level for over a year now. And so I do acknowledge that there will be some local Conservatives who will be sad and disappointed. We've worked together in some cases for over a decade, and we've become like a family. And I want them to know this is not about them. Yep. This is not about them. This is about the National Party being totally at odds with what true Conservative values are. And, you know, if they agree with me, if they support me, come to Reform UK.
OK. Suella Braverman, thank you for joining us. Suella Braverman with her first interview as a new Reform UK MP, and she says a handful more Tory MPs are looking at defecting, Michelle.
Interesting stuff there, Christopher Hope. Thank you very much for that. A handful, ladies and gents. Goodness knows how big people's hands are. I think they seem to be a bit bigger than mine. Anyway, what do you react? How do you react to that, Samantha?
I think it takes a lot to jump ship from one party to another, particularly if you've been a member for 30 years. But she did mention party versus country. I think really for her and her colleagues, it's party versus herself, and country versus herself. And I do wonder I don't know what the polling's like in her constituency, but there seems to be a lot of opportunism going on right now. And I just think, imagine being part of a movement for 30 years and then deciding to turn your back on it. I mean, I think that says rather more about her than it does.
But she would argue, and she's been arguing all day long, that she hasn't turned her back on the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party have turned its back on true conservatism. This is the point that I was just trying to raise with Bernard when he says the Tory party are Conservatives. Many people that are watching this programme, they will be shouting at their screens and their radios now, saying it's not about leaving the party, it's about the party leaving them.
Yeah, we have seen, I mean, despite what they say, despite what Zira is saying, we have seen a Conservative Party that's done nothing but lean to the right. I mean, it's absolutely... Talking about ripping up the European Convention on Human Rights, that doesn't mean just ripping up the rights of immigrants. That means ripping up the rights of all of us. I am more of a fan of having a seat at the table, remaining and fighting in your party, just as I did when we had a massive loss in 2019, just as many of us did without defecting to other parties. And I think she could have done the same. We're only like 2 years, less than 2 years in. It was always going to be the toughest part for any government, let alone the opposition, 2 years in. So I just think she's an opportunist.
I want to bring some context to the conversation that you've just been hearing between Suella Braverman and Christopher Hope there. The question just came up, it was about you actually, Zia. in July, this is what Christopher Hurt was asking about. You tweeted, the British government learnt of the data leak in August 2023. 24,000 Afghans secretly granted asylum, costing British taxpayers up to $7 billion. The government covered it up. Who was in government? Home Secretary Suella Braverman and Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick. That's what Christopher Hurt was referring to there. He was asking Suella how she regards you. How do you regard Suella now, then?
So let me tell you a story. I think it was November 2023, I was still running my company. I was, not involved in politics at all. And I saw an op-ed, I think it was in the Times, by one Suella Braverman MP. And she basically talked about how there was two-tier policing writ large in this country. I don't know if you remember that, Michelle.
I do.
But I read that and I thought, oh, wow, maybe there is some common sense inside this Conservative Party. Maybe all of the hopes I had for the party that I'd voted for, I hadn't really had any involvement with it other than being a member and voting for it. Maybe actually it was well placed. And then what happened as a result of the very op-ed that I was reading, that, by the way, turns out to be incredibly prescient, she was fired. She was fired. And so actually, Suella has paid a heavy price from a career perspective inside the Conservative Party for standing up for things like having a single-tier policing without fear nor favour, for standing up for saying that, we should leave the ECHR, which, by the way, is just one of many, many things we need to do to stop the boats and secure our borders and finally do the mass deportations this country needs. So, look, I welcome her to the party. And what is happening now in real time, this is actually a historic moment because the Conservative Party is the so-called Conservative Party is the most successful Democratic Party in the history of democracy. And the right-wing elements of that party, i.e. the ones that would agree with the philosophy of Nigel Farage and Reform, are basically now joining Reform. And that party's demise is accelerating. We are seeing it in real time.
I've got to tell you, I'm just scrolling through the contacts that you guys are having with us, and so many of you are delighted. Actually, I've got to tell you, that seems to be the overwhelming feedback coming in from many of you at home. You're absolutely delighted by this defection. Freddie says, Michelle, surely this means that the Tory party is surely finished. Suella echoes Robert's assessment of a toxic party, not fit to ever govern again. David says, Michelle, Suella Braverman has been the best signing of this year's transfer window. Josephine says, Michelle, I'm so happy about this. It feels like every day Reform is getting stronger and people are now beginning to see what a waste of time the other established parties are and not to be trusted. John says, I would like to see all Conservatives apologise for the time served in Parliament whenever and if they join the Reform stage. He wants an apology to be the first thing out of their mouths. I'll put to you, Samantha, that when people are getting in touch at the moment, they're generalising against the mainstream political parties. They're not just talking about the Tories. They're talking about the lack of trust people have more broadly in parties like Labour as well. What would you say back to those viewers?
I know that people are absolutely chomping at the bit for change, as am I. We always said it would take a decade of renewal to get the country back on its feet. To do that, we need to win the next general election. To do that, we always have to do the toughest things in the first 2 years. People now, in a social media age, are influenced by masses and masses of bots, which I know Reform have had a huge, huge influx of in support of them, which has amplified their voice. Just 1 second, please.
What's your evidence for that? Hold on. You just claimed that Reform is being supported by bots online. What's your evidence?
Yeah, take a look at X. There you go.
Sorry,
just take a look at X and that. Your evidence is.
You won't see any evidence of that looking at X. But you just made a pretty serious statement there. What's your evidence that that's a serious thing for somebody to say on GB News? What's your evidence that Reform is being supported by bots?
Just take a look at X here. So there are plenty of bots and bots.
Take a look at X.
No, there are plenty.
You can take the rest of this answer with the seriousness of that one.
Yeah, go on, finish your point. I do want to explore that in a bit more detail, though. But go on.
No, absolutely. So not only have we got an age where people expect delivery next day, like Amazon-style delivery next day of change, they are impatient. And I completely understand that. What I find astonishing is that they look to reform, and I have this conversation with reform supporters in my own constituency who somehow think that a party led by a man who fought for Brexit, which has made this country worse off, that lied with slogans on the side of a bus about 350 million back into the NHS, that because of Brexiting has made the boat crossings infinitely worse. I find it astonishing that people look to that man and can trust him.
But they do trust him. They trust him. Well, they trust him, and I know this because people get in touch with me on a daily basis about this very topic, because they view consistency. They view Nigel Farage, whatever you think of him, whatever you don't think of him, he's consistent in his messaging. I want to return back to this point, though, that you feel that the support for Reform UK is bolstered by bots. That will tell a lot of my audience, because many of the audience, not all, but many of the audience watching our Reform UK supporters, many of them are previous Labour UK voters that have gone to Reform. And they will think that you are monumentally out of touch with their concerns if you think the reason they've switched to Reform from you is because some random fake X account has told them to.
No, I'm not saying that the random fake X account has told them to switch to Reform. I'm talking about the rhetoric is so incredibly anti-Labour. And so many of it can be directly correlated to bots. I've had a surge of bots following me on Instagram since I called out that I had a company tell me that half of the comments on my social media, at least half of them, are bots. And so, you know, that is just one of the reasons.
You know the fairy tale about the mirror on the wall?
It's like the Emperor with no clothes, which is Nigel Farage,
that might
frankly.
actually just be constituents and voters in this country who are appalled by what this Labour government is doing.
Well, you would say that, wouldn't you, Zia?
You know, I'm actually amazed that a representative from Labour has come on to GB News and just said that the small boats crisis has become, quote, infinitely worse. That is a direct quote of what you have just said.
Brexit,
and yes, that is one of the many reasons why people online and offline are absolutely furious about what Keir Starmer's done. Small boats crossings north of 42,000 last year. That is up even on the appalling Tory record. The obsession with trying to cede our sovereign territory in the form of Chagos and then spend tens of billions of pounds of British taxpayers' money to take it back, taking away the winter fuel allowance from pensioners and then having forced into a humiliating U-turn. I could go on. Digital ID. I mean, it has been one thing after another of appallingly treacherous policies from the Labour Party. That is why you're getting the feedback you are from voters, and that is not bots, that is just the British people speaking up.
Amplified by bots, thank you.
Right, well, hold on a minute, because you're the British people watching this at home. Are you being influenced by what you're seeing on social media? Is that what's behind your support for Reform UK, if indeed you do support Reform UK? I also do, though, want to talk about the Labour Party as well in the programme, the Andy Burnham news. You will have seen that at the weekend. Let's take a look after the break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Much like the UK, most of the Mediterranean is very unsettled at the moment. There's some particularly heavy rain around. There's even some snow in places as well. And on Tuesday, it's going to be parts of southern Portugal and Spain that will see the wettest weather. Flooding is quite likely in some places here, so travel disruption is likely. Very windy as well. Parts of Italy and the Balkans will see some sunshine, though, on Tuesday, although Greece and Turkey generally pretty unsettled with some heavy showers around. It stays changeable through the next few days and temperatures around average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Storm Chandra is here at the Met Office. We named the storm on Monday morning, likely to bring some significant problems over the next 24 hours or so with heavy rain and strong winds. Not everywhere will be affected, but as the storm moves in, it is likely to cause some flooding in the southwest of the UK. We're already seeing the heavy rain setting in, and the ground is already very soggy in this part of the world. More rain to come for Northern Ireland, and the wind's really picking up here as we go through the night as well. The rain will spread into Wales, the Midlands also, and as it hits the colder air over the hills of northern England. There'll be some snow moving in as well. Temperatures mostly staying above freezing, but the wind's really whipping up in the southwest. That is another cause for concern, not just the rain, but those winds strengthening further. But a lot of water on the roads for the morning commute, particularly on parts of the M4 and the M5. Heavy rain spreading right across southern parts of England. May turn a bit drier in the southwest, but the winds will be whipping up here. Some of the strongest winds, though, likely in the east of Northern Ireland. That's where we've got another amber warning in place. Gusts of 60, 70, maybe 75 miles an hour. The wind's continuing to feed the wet weather into eastern Scotland, where there will also be more snow over the hills. We have a number of warnings in place. Please do check them out for yourself on the Met Office website. The wind's whipping up in the southwest through the day. Of course, this area affected badly by Storm Goretti a few weeks ago, and there's strong winds continuing in the east of Northern Ireland. The band of rain moves through, something a little bit drier in eastern areas for the afternoon, but more showers coming into the southwest. We might reach 10 Celsius, but it won't feel all that mild with the wind and the rain. Looks a little drier to start with on Wednesday. Could be a cold start, a little bit of frost around. The winds won't be as lively on Wednesday, but still a brisk enough wind blowing in more showers to Northern Ireland and parts of the southwest, and staying fairly damp in the northeast of Scotland. Further spells of wet and windy weather to come this week. As I mentioned, please do check the Met Office website and app for full details of the warning. See how you could be affected.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A9 at Old Clyne near Brora is restricted for maintenance. On the M4 eastbound, congestion persists between junction 28 at Tredegar Park and junction 26 at Malpass. Sheffield's M1 northbound between junction 34 and 35 has a broken down vehicle, causing a lane closure. In Derby, the A6 northbound is slow between the A50 and the A5 111. And on the trains, Northern faces major disruption between Rochdale and Manchester Victoria, with Trans-Pennine Express affected between Huddersfield and Manchester Victoria. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, Head of Policy for Reform UK's EUSEF, and the Labour MP Samantha Niblett. Now Samantha, you've upset quite a few of my viewers on Twitter.
I'm not saying
so many. Well, lots of you are getting in touch actually, saying to me, Michelle, I've been accused of being a bot because of my username. I'm absolutely not. One of my other viewers, David, he's got in touch and said, this blaming bots for the rise of Reform UK, which is in part what just happened, by the way, if you just tuned in, you don't know what I'm talking about. One of my viewers is saying they're using this, Mandy, she's saying they're using it as an excuse not to listen to what people are saying. I mean, for example, you were just saying that Brexit, for example, has made the small boat crisis what it is.
Worse, yeah.
How?
Because we now don't have the right to return people to countries because we came out.
But you're talking about the Dublin Agreement that was in place. But the Dublin Agreement, we was a net recipient of people.
But we can't send anybody back.
Yes,
either.
but when we had this framework, the Dublin Agreement, I know what you're talking about, that we lost, you're quite right, in Brexit. When we had that in place, we was a net recipient. We were taking way more people than we were sending back. So how is the ability not to receive more people net a bad thing?
But we are getting more people trying to make crossings into the UK, and when they get here, we cannot return them.
Yeah, I mean, OK. People are quite upset about this comment about the bots. People are taking it as almost an insult on their own intelligence, that they are following your party because somebody somewhere is pulling strings to get them to do that.
A Labour MP... The idea that somebody could come onto GB News and say that the people in my inbox and on social media calling out this Labour government for the appalling acts of treachery. Again, we could go on and on. You know, the boat crossings at near record highs, up even on the Tory appalling record. The winter fuel allowance, taking the winter fuel allowance away from pensioners and then being forced into a humiliating U-turn. Likewise, the Chagos Islands, likewise, the inheritance tax rate on farmers, likewise, digital ID, another U-turn. I could go on and on. We could use up your whole show, Michelle, running through the examples. That is why Keir Starmer has become the most unpopular Prime Minister since records began, since pollsters started recording that data. So to come onto TV and say the reason why people are sending me this negative feedback is because of bots, or that is so ridiculous. And actually, you would do far better to pause for a moment and listen to the British people. If you actually did that, then the precipitous decline of Keir Starmer in the polls might actually start to recede. And he wouldn't be forced, by the way, he wouldn't be forced to exert brute power, the brute power he has through the Labour NEC to prevent somebody like Andy Burnham from even becoming a Labour MP.
Well, let's talk about that then. So in case you've been asleep all weekend, of course, we had the willy-worty Andy Burnham. He then put his name in the hat. The NEC essentially then blocked him. I'll spare you all the details because I just want to stick with the panel for a minute. But Keir Starmer today essentially saying that Andy Burnham was doing a great job as the Mayor of Manchester. The NEC essentially raising concerns about the costs of the replacement election if Andy switched roles. That's the situation. What's your response to it?
I think it was the right decision. Andy is a terrific mayor in Greater Manchester, proven by the fact he was re-elected again just sort of like 2 years ago. And I think to try and shift jobs in the middle of that is crackers. He could have stood to be an MP in 2024, like so many of us, if he wanted to. And to do a election in Greater Manchester would be the equivalent of running elections for 22 constituencies. That's not an insignificant sum. We promised stability. We promised to be cleverer and wiser with the public funding so that we can public money so that we can invest in public services, which we are doing, such as bringing records. We've got record drop in waiting lists again with the NHS. We're investing in our schools, to name just a few. And so, you know, I think it was absolutely the right decision. And Andy said he didn't want to cause any trouble to government, and he won't, continuing to do the job he's got. And then when he comes up for election in a couple of years and he wants to be an MP, then then will be an opportunity.
He also said that the media was informed of the NEC decision before he was. He said you would think that over 30 years of service would count for something, but sadly not. The NEC said that they did try and email him and call him. What do you think to that comment there?
Well, the NEC said they tried to call him but didn't pick up.
It's very odd, but why would Andy Burnham say... I mean, there's very odd thing. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I sit here, I don't know if I live in a different world. Press conferences going on, press statements going out about mental health that apparently nobody's seen. People putting statements out saying that they were not told they can't get a job, but apparently there was told. It's very strange. Anyway, what do you think to it, Olsey, you, sir?
Well, it's obvious to everybody who looks at this situation. Keir Starmer knows that he is historically unpopular, the most unpopular Prime Minister since records began, and Andy Burnham is incredibly popular, both with Labour members and, not that popular nationally, but certainly more popular than Keir Starmer, and therefore Keir Starmer sees Andy Burnham for what he is, given Andy Burnham's already made crystal clear that he intends on challenging Keir Starmer for the leadership. Look, I think it is a matter of time before Keir Starmer is properly challenged and that the Labour leadership changes. The question is whether the Labour Party will do the honourable thing and call a general election when that happens.
I think this country needs stability, and that's what we promised it. And Keir Starmer's not afraid of anything. He took on the leadership of this party in 2020 and absolutely reformed, horrible to use that word, but reformed, updated, changed our party to make us completely electable.
Why is it horrible to use the word reform?
Because I'm sick to the back teeth of hearing the word reform, I'm sure, for obvious reasons. Right. But it was a very clever name to pick as a name of a party, I have to say, because we say it so often.
Goodness me, what do you make to it all, ladies and gents? I'll bring you back into the conversation some more after the break. And I also want to talk to you about policing reforms. Do you think we need the equivalent of a British FBI? That's on the table. I'll see you in a sec. I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. with you.
Hello, everyone. Patrick Christie is here. GBNews, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GBNews family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the programme. With me, Michelle Dewberry, Zia Youssef and Samantha Niblett. Lots of you getting in touch, lots and lots of you. I didn't join the Reform Party because of bots, Michelle. I joined the Reform Party because real people talking common sense, and that, says Andy, is what the country has been missing. Kevin says the problem for me with the Labour Party, they're not listening to the British people. David says I'm an ex-member of the Labour Party and I'm a nephew of a former Labour MP, but I would never be able to vote for the Labour Party again because of their politics. Bobby says, Michelle, I've been a Labour member myself in the past and a union rep for over 20 years. I can say I've left and stopped voting Labour because it's Labour in name only, he says. Samantha, your party is full of radical leftists, as are the unions. He says, I've never voted Tory, never will. Too many scars from Thatcher's era over the miners' strikes. He says, but I feel now we have a patriotic new choice in Reform UK. Are you full of radical leftists?
No, oh my goodness. One day we get called red Tories, other days we get called communists. So I think it depends who's talking. Radical left is a party. I mean, we have got some people that are quite radical on the left, but a party of them? No.
There you go, Bobby. That's told you. What do you think? Anyway, look, let's talk then, shall we, about Labour Party policies, because we talk about law and order, of the breakdown of it anyway, on this show quite often. Well, now, the Labour Party are announcing what they call the biggest reform to policing in 2 centuries. They're going to slash police forces and create the equivalent, essentially, of a British FBI. We're going to have an expansion of facial recognition software, and good news, we like that, don't we? Removal now of these non-crime hate incidents. Samantha, I will just start with you because it's your policy. Tell us more.
I'm delighted about this because it's been sort of 200 years of policing and not a huge amount has changed. Certainly this is the biggest reform, is that what again? A radical change to policing in 60 years. And what it's going to allow us to do is have a national police force that essentially looks after the big serious crimes, and then a community police force that can focus on community police force, community police force action, so tackling people that are like stealing mobile phones and shop theft or antisocial behaviour. And I have to say, as a committed constituency MP that works closely with our local police force, who do a great job. They are so incredibly stretched. And then you have the issue of county lines, and where I have, being on the border of different areas, I have some constituents that are having a nightmare trying to work between different police forces for really serious crimes.
So, Yousef, do you support these changes?
Well, the British people, I think, are sick and tired of the current laws that already exist in this country, the ones people care about, not being enforced. We don't need a new national police force to now not enforce laws that already exist. Look, people are sick and tired of the fact that we've had police now for years and years, and this obviously started under the Tories, a police force that sadly, against the wishes of many actual police officers, seem to be much more interested in policing tweets than actually policing our streets. Knife crime is totally out of control. We see smartphone thefts, Michelle, absolutely out of control. Shoplifting's totally out of control. Go and talk to people who actually work in retail. In fact, I've spoken to so many people who actually run retail stores saying they struggle to attract staff. Why? In no small part because people are worried about getting criminals come in and basically just take stuff out of the store. And under a certain amount, I think it's £200, it is basically de facto legal now. So all of this is just window dressing. It's more just superficial nonsense. What we need are the laws that already exist in this country to actually be upheld. That's what reform are all about. We're going to make sure our police forces around this country are focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is identifying, arresting criminals and putting them in jail.
Can I address that? Because I'm really grateful for the fact that he's addressed that shoplifting is up, 72% since 2010, and I'm sure all those years of Tory austerity had quite a lot to do with that. But I am a member of the Cooperative Party, and I have done visits to co-ops to talk to shop workers there who absolutely sometimes go to work in fear, and that is why this Labour Party, one of the first things it was doing was making abusing shop workers a crime, and actually we removed this sort of like loophole of if you nick under a certain amount, you can't be.
Shoplifting was up in part because of austerity. Why do you think that?
Well, if you've got less money and in your pocket and you're struggling, then the country is struggling as a whole. Then I think the appropriate response
to having less money is steal. I think that's deeply offensive to a lot of people.
I'm sorry, but we know
who are struggling, who don't
people
turn
that have
to
been
crime, who know the victims of crime.
Stealing
No, I actually think that's really telling.
Baby infant.
Try not to speak over each other too much.
It speaks to the philosophy of the Labour Party.
You're talking over me like you did the last time.
Hold on,
to the philosophy of the Labour Party that you think
that. Excuse me, no, you're not going to keep talking, thank you very much, because it's my programme. Finish your point and then let her respond, because I want her to respond.
I think it speaks to the Labour philosophy. Of course.
Very quickly, I've got like 20 seconds and I want her to come back. Quick.
Of course, we want to raise real wages for people and improve people's living standards. But the notion that just because you're falling on hard times, you should turn to crime and therefore it's somewhat justified, which is what you're referring to, I think is deeply offensive to a lot of people.
I didn't say that. And we have seen even baby milk being stolen from shelves, as well as nappies, because people have been struggling. So for you to suggest that me saying that is outrageous is outrageous.
There you go. What do you think? Do you think this epidemic of shoplifting is driven by poverty or a little bit of self-entitlement? I'll leave you to ponder that. Anyway, it's all I've got time for. Panel, thank you. Have a great night at home, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Storm Chandra is here at the Met Office. We named the storm on Monday morning, likely to bring some significant problems over the next 24 hours or so with heavy rain and strong winds. Not everywhere will be affected, but as the storm moves in, it is likely to cause some flooding in the southwest of the UK. We're already seeing the heavy rain setting in, and the ground is already very soggy in this part of the world. More rain to come for Northern Ireland, and the wind's really picking up here as we go through the night as well. The rain will spread into Wales, the Midlands also, and as it hits the colder air over the hills of northern England, there'll be some snow moving in as well. Temperatures mostly staying above freezing, but the wind's really whipping up in the southwest. That is another cause for concern, not just the rain, but those winds strengthening further. But a lot of water on the roads for the morning commute, particularly on parts of the M4 and the M5. Heavy rain spreading right across southern parts of England. May turn a bit drier in the southwest, but the winds will be whipping up here. Some of the strongest winds, though, likely in the east of Northern Ireland. That's where we've got another amber warning in place. place, gusts of 60, 70, maybe 75 miles an hour. The wind's continuing to feed the wet weather into eastern Scotland, where there will also be more snow over the hills. We have a number of warnings in place. Please do check them out for yourself on the Met Office website. The wind's whipping up in the southwest through the day. Of course, this area affected badly by Storm Goretti a few weeks ago, and there's strong winds continuing in the east of Northern Ireland. The band of rain moves through, something a little bit drier in eastern areas for the afternoon, but more showers coming into the southwest. We might reach 10 Celsius, but it won't feel all that mild with the wind and the rain. Looks a little drier to start with on Wednesday. Could be a cold start, a little bit of frost around. The winds won't be as lively on Wednesday, but still a brisk enough wind blowing in more showers to Northern Ireland and parts of the southwest, and staying fairly damp in the northeast of Scotland. Further spells of wet and windy weather to come this week. As I mentioned, please do check the Met Office website and app for full details of the warning. See how you could be affected.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 10 million followers across our social media platforms. We're truly honoured to have your trust, one follower at a time.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A9 at Old Clyne near Brora, both directions are restricted for planned maintenance. In Staffordshire, the M6 southbound between junction 14 and junction 13 has a broken down vehicle closing one lane. In Sheffield, the M1 northbound between junction 34 and junction 35 is also down to 3 lanes after a breakdown. In Reading, the M4 eastbound entry slip at junction 11 is partly blocked following a crash. And on the trains, Northern has major disruption between Rochdale and Manchester Victoria, and TransPennine Express between Huddersfield and Manchester Victoria. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can become our biggest cash prize winner to date, as there's a simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to be won. Go on that dream holiday, buy that brand new car, or just relax in the knowledge that the rest of the year could be on us. But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.